Hello everyone, welcome back. It is still October, it is still Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and actually we are at the second half of Down Syndrome Awareness Month as of yesterday. So today I want to give a little update about the surgery, how everything went down, and where we're at with recovery. And then after today we're going to get right back to Down Syndrome Awareness Month fun stuff. So yeah, this is all about George's surgery update, recovery, and all things tonsils, adenoids, and ear tubes. If you hear Sesame Street on in the background, it's because Sesame Street has been going nonstop for the last few days, but that's great. So we went in Tuesday morning was George's surgery. We arrived at 6 o'clock in the morning and for a 7:30 surgery. So it was really nice because George was the first surgery of the morning for his ENT. Here he comes. Which was really nice, and we didn't have to, because he couldn't eat beforehand. Are you dancing? Which was nice, so that we just woke him up and got him right in the car and he went. So it was all on time. Everything was really great. One thing I want to say is something that I didn't know about. Uh-oh, no thanks. I didn't know about this until recently, but I learned that kiddos with Down syndrome have an instability in their spine between two certain vertebrae. I'm not sure which one it is. So I wanted to make sure I told this to the anesthesiologist and talked to the anesthesiologist before any tubes or anything was going to be, going to be put in. And what I really appreciated was that as soon as we got back there, the first thing that the anesthesiologist did was ask me if he had had a x-ray done yet of his spine or if they needed to take extra precautions. Which I was like, what a great way to let a mom know that you are educated about Down syndrome and that you are aware that my son has additional considerations when it comes to safely operating on him. So I love that. I know! We go to Children's Hospital of Michigan for things like this, and they're always incredible. We love it so much. Do you see Mom? So that was like, it started off on a really good foot because it let me know that the anesthesiologist cared and that he was aware of everything. Hi, George. Hi. So the morning started off on a really good foot because that happened and they were really sweet about it. And one of the nurses even asked me at one point, she goes, is there anything you would like for us to know? Okay, you're getting this all dirty. She asked me if there was anything that we wanted her to know about Jordan and his Down syndrome, any special considerations or anything like that. So we just felt really taken care of. The moment that we gave George to the nurse to take him back was bad, but it was so handled so wonderfully by everybody. All of the nurses and doctors let us know that he was loved and that he was going to be taken care of, and that he was seen and that, you know, he was valued. So we felt really good. So the surgery took about an hour 10, hour 15, and that was the longest hour ever. Obviously, we were able to track progress on a little computer screen in the waiting room. And what they did, what they were going to do, we knew, was take his adenoids out, shave his tonsils down, check out his ears, probably put ear tubes in, and then do a general scope of his airway. So we knew they were doing quite a bit, so we were not surprised. It did go about 10-15 minutes over what they had anticipated. Yeah? Which made us nervous, but it was for a good cause. So when they took us back to see George once the surgery was over, I have talked a lot about here that George is a fierce self-advocate. He is fiery, he is opinionated, he is ready to make his opinions known, and it's one of my most favorite things about him. Hi, baby. So I was expecting to go back to the room, to recovery, to find the walls shaking and an earthquake happening from the loudness of George's screams. And we actually went back and he was still asleep when we went back there. So that was kind of jarring and made us both a little nervous, but it was kind of sweet because we got to be there when he woke up. While he was still sleeping, the ENT came back and let us know that everything looked really great. His airways looked perfect. She successfully took the adenoids out, took the tonsils out really easily, or shaved the tonsils down really easily, and then did end up putting the ear tubes in. There was no complications. Everything went really great. He was a really good patient for them, they said too. He didn't fight them too hard to go to sleep. So Once he woke up, we were expecting it to be really bad because he had just had surgery and he's a toddler and he can't tell us what hurts. He's probably scared. He's a little confused because he had anesthesia. But George woke up cuddly and like just wanted me and Kyle. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't unhappy. He was just really like sleepy still. So that was actually great. Elmo? That was great because that meant that George actually drank juice almost immediately upon waking up, which was astonishing because we were expecting him to refuse food and water, for at least a day is what we were prepped for. So he woke up and drank juice and nom nom nom. As we were in the recovery room, that is where George got the reputation of being the celebrity. So I learned this because a nurse came in and she goes, is the celebrity in this room? And we were like, what celebrity? And she goes, yeah, I saw the cat. She goes, everyone's talking about the cutest baby with Down syndrome that's in the OR today. And I was like, yes, that's him. So we were only in recovery for about half an hour, and then he was totally stable and fine and awake and drinking juice, and which we were really grateful for. 30 minutes was much shorter than we anticipated. Say hi. So once we got out of recovery, we went back to our room that we were staying in overnight. We knew we were spending the night there. And the room was small. It was just a crib and a folding couch and a chair, but it was perfect. We had our own room, which we were really grateful for in the pandemic. And we met our nurse there, and immediately George ate 2 popsicles right off the bat. And I could tell almost immediately that the recovery was going to go better than I had mentally prepared for, because he immediately started asking for books and wanted to talk to his grandparents when we called them. So George came back really fast, and that was something I was not anticipating. I was expecting him to be understandably miserable, but that was not at all the case. He woke up really himself and eating and drinking almost right off the bat. Around lunchtime, we ordered him mac and cheese, and he ate the whole bowl of mac and cheese 3 hours post-op. One thing I did not expect was to have to remind my son not to do somersaults just moments after he woke up from anesthesia. Thank you. Do you want more? I have to go get him more. Hold on. So our stay at the hospital was relatively uneventful. Our nurse was amazing. Both of our day nurse and our night nurse were both, they were the best. But George had earned the reputation of the celebrity down there as well, so all of the nurses came in at some point to play with him or talk to us, and we felt super safe. Everybody was very masked and shields, and like, it was great. So we just kind of hung out in the hospital room for the day. We, you wanna sit? George read a lot of books and played with some toys. We FaceTimed family. And he actually did end up taking about a 2-hour nap, which, again, we were not expecting because he had slept for an hour earlier in the day during the surgery, but that was great. Kyle actually had a presentation. Kyle's in graduate school earning a second master's degree in education, and so he had a presentation to do. Oh, fun thing was so great was that both me and Kyle could go to the surgery, and Kyle could stay with us all day. I didn't expect that. I thought that because of COVID restrictions, once George woke up from his surgery, Kyle would have to go home, but he didn't. He got to stay until the end of visiting hours at 8, which is when George went to bed almost. So it was like we were both there the whole day, which was amazing. So, yeah, that was kind of our day. Kyle did some homework during George's only, like, bad moment. So he only had one really bad meltdown the whole day of his surgery, and it was because he needed meds. So he was getting meds every 3 hours from the nurses, and so he just had eaten, and I think his throat was sore, so he melted down a little bit, and crying made his throat worse. But I mean, it was 15 minutes of screaming, and then he was fine, which was so surprising. We were so grateful for it. So Kyle left around 8 when visiting hours ended, and George ended up falling asleep around 8:30, which is not astonishingly later than when he falls asleep at home, in a super dark room, you know, without machines beeping. At that point, he wasn't connected to an IV or anything, which made everything a little bit easier, I think. But he still, you know, wasn't in his own bed. He didn't have his, you know, blanket and stuff. So the fact that he fell asleep was a shock. So I went to bed almost immediately when George went to bed because I was anticipating it being really bad, but it was not. His night was really great. He woke up, so he was woken up by the nurses every 3 hours to get vitals and to get his pain meds. His first time, he opened his eyes and opened his mouth, took the medicine, and fell back asleep. Second time, he cried a little bit but fell back asleep, and then at 3 a.m., he had a dance party for an hour and a half. He just stood in his crib and danced after he got his medicine at 3. So then he was up for the day at 6, and at 7, they discharged us. And the ENT told us during rounds that he was A, the quickest recovery she had ever seen, and B, had the smallest ear canal she had ever seen. She said, even with kids with Down syndrome, his are small. So 2 gold stars for George. So we've been home since then. So today is Friday. We've been home since Wednesday morning, and things are going really, really well. He's recovering amazingly. Again, because of his fiery personality, I was really prepared for this to be a really rough few days. And it's definitely, he's not feeling great. He's not by any means operating at 100%, but he's doing really well. He is eating, he is drinking so much. And that was what I was prepped for having to fight, was that he was going to have to, you know, we had to keep him hydrated because he had surgery and all of the anesthesia was washing out of his system, and we never had to. Wednesday afternoon, he started to get a little off balance and seemed a little bit, not dizzy, but just like his balance was off. And so I called the ENT to just make sure that that was normal, because no one had ever mentioned that that could happen. And I assumed it was because he had had his ears operated on the day before and had ear tubes. And the nurse confirmed, yes, that is what's happening. He's probably a little off balance because there was commotion in his ears and the anesthesia was still wearing off. So I wanted to make sure I said that because nobody had ever told me, I've never heard of that happening to any kids. And the nurse confirmed that it is normal. It's not a super common thing, but it's not a concern. There's nothing wrong. So I wanted to make sure I said that. And he took a 3-hour nap. He's taken really good naps every time, and he's sleeping really great. We are still waking him up every 3 hours for the next few days to give him meds, but he's no longer waking up fully when we give him his meds. He lets us just give them to him, and he just takes them and falls right back asleep. So, you know, Kyle and I are taking turns with the 3-hour stretches, and we're exhausted for sure. But all things considered, every part of this has gone leaps and bounds better than I thought it was going to. We were expecting, you know, a screaming kiddo for days, and we were completely okay with it, obviously. But George is back. He woke up today happy, smiling, playing. We are definitely still medicating and still keeping up on all of that, as, you know, just preventative for just the next few days. But today's day 4, and we're feeling really good. We're definitely not out of the woods. We are not like totally clear. We are still recovering. If I am 30 seconds late giving him meds, he lets me know. So that's kind of our update, is that the surgery went really great. Recovery is going really, really well. We are kind of just taking it easy at home, snuggling, a lot of juice, a lot of popsicles, and a lot of snuggling, and a lot of Sesame Street. But because this happened during Down Syndrome Awareness Month, I do want to share the 2 things that I think related to Down syndrome in this experience. And the first thing was what I talked about earlier with the medical professionals acknowledging that he had Down syndrome, letting us as his parents know that we see him, we value it, we are not ignoring it, but we are also not babying him to it, you know? So they all made it very clear that they knew that they had it. At one point I did hear a nurse warn another nurse, like, hey, he does have Down syndrome, in the hallway. But for the most part, everybody treated him in the really correct way, which is acknowledging that he had an additional diagnosis, but not, you know, making him seem like this really scary medical baby because of it, because he's not. So that was really great. And the second thing is that I talk about appreciating Down syndrome, and I think that people with Down syndrome know how to be happy and know how to see the good in the world, and that's where And that is where the stereotype that they are always happy comes from. And I think it's because they do know how to choose joy and see joy most of the time. Obviously never exclusively, but George spread joy through that hospital. I could tell. Everybody felt better when they walked out of our room than when they walked into our room. George made people happy. He waved at every person who walked by, whether they saw him or not. He was blowing kisses to the nurses. He, at one point, signed to the nurse that he wanted more juice. And so everybody, you know, and I think some of it is probably that everybody thinks a baby with Down syndrome is really cute because they're really cute babies. But I also think that it's just that George, I don't know how to explain it. George brings joy. George is magic, and he brings joy to people who don't know him. And maybe it's because of his Down syndrome, and maybe it's not, but I like to think it is because of his Down syndrome, and that, you know, I think his extra chromosome gives him extra magic and gives him a little extra joy that he shares. And I remember being so proud that I heard in the hallway at one point the nurses go, "Did you go see that really cute baby with Down syndrome?" And the other nurse was like, "Oh yeah." And I walked by and I was like, I'm that kid's mom. Like, I get to go in there and be his mom. And I'm just so proud and so grateful. And I'm so impressed with the way he's handled everything, and his resilience has just blown us out of the water. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share, was that our recovery is really great, his surgery went great, and he was really, really seen and valued by every medical professional at Children's Hospital of Michigan. So we are so grateful. We are going back to Down Syndrome Awareness Month fun videos after this one, and I'm really excited about some of the stuff we have coming up. So that's all I have. So thank you so much for watching. Happy Down Syndrome Appreciation Month, and we'll see you later. Bye!